I'm Evan Knappen.
And I'm Teddy Knappen.
And welcome to Gun Lawyer. So, Teddy, what have you brought to the table today?
Well, I'm always amazed by every single time they always try to say Trump's not doing enough. Like you hear the horseshoe, right? Like it's amazing the idea of just, oh, he hasn't done enough, or they do the goalpost move where they move he hasn't done anything, or they move in and say he hasn't done enough. And I keep hearing this all the time about people when with regards to the Second Amendment, and they always try to highlight that stupid thing regarding the what was it, the pistol brace at the time, because the writing on the wall that they tried to argue.
Right. Well, remember, keep in mind that with the pistol brace, originally NRA was not real keen on them either, you remember. So Trump was trying to also go along with what the organizations themselves were doing. Remember, because the brace thing was, but what you eventually saw and what you're seeing now just on that is the elimination of the brace being an SBR and that whole Merrick Garland insanity of having to register pistol brace. And they put the reg forward on their, which should be official shortly, getting rid of that completely. And we're going to, in other shows, talk about anybody, if you happen to register a braced pistol as an SBR, what you need to do, because that's all history. And Trump has ensured that it's now history. So let's give credit there for that.
And they always highlight the bump stock thing, which, by the way, the writing was on the wall of why Obama wanted to let that through was because they were going to make the equate assault ARs to machine guns, and that would have led to where.
That's right. So remember the anti-rights, the oppressionists, they always have a game plan. So their game plan was, look, if we have the bump stock thing going, then we can claim that semi-automatics are like machine guns, and then we can go after them and get a ban on semi-automatics as machine guns. And what Trump was doing politically in that sense was thwarting their political move. Now, if you say, oh, well, that isn't, how do you know that's their plan, or that was, well, I'll tell you what, if you want to see that as their plan, you can see it in action right now as they ban Glocks. California just banned Glock pistols. And what is their basis for banning Glocks? Oh, well, they're easily convertible with Glock switches, you see. Yeah. So this is always the gambit of the Second Amendment oppressionists. So now we ban handguns that are perfectly legal, the most popular handgun in America, and we ban it how? Oh, because you can put an unlawful Glock switch, which turns it into select fire, and these switches are in and of themselves. Just possession of a switch is the same as possessing a machine gun. So the switches are banned, but they use it as the pretext to expand it and then ban handguns themselves. You also saw them attempt this with the so-called iron pipeline. They were laying the groundwork for the iron pipeline. They wanted to say, oh, American guns, semi-auto, are going to Mexico, to the narco terrorists and all. And what did they do? They changed the 4473 to ask, are you Hispanic or not? Like, why are they asking that? And then they had multiple rifle reporting on border states. Why are they doing that? And then, of course, they do Fast and Furious so they could paint the picture to then push a gun ban based on the iron pipeline down south. But lo and behold, they step on their own toes here, use that
very
word instead,
nice.
and Fast and Furious blows up in their face because they're selling the guns themselves to the narco terrorists and end up killing a federal agent, no less. So that plan went all the hell. But see, this is what they do. They lay groundwork with these things, and that's really what was going on there on that. But with this administration, we've never had an administration this pro Second Amendment rights that it's ever been president, ever. They're now saying to California, get rid of that Glock ban, or the Justice Department of the federal government is going after California. In other words, we finally have the federal government not pursuing oppression of the Second Amendment, but of enforcing our rights and preserving and fighting for our rights. And they did it, and they're doing it in all different facets. They're doing it by administrative reg changes, 34 great changes. They're doing it by the litigation. They're doing it by getting a focus of civil rights and putting the Second Amendment into that category. And now, President Trump, just recently at a rally in Pennsylvania, said he wants to see and is pushing for national constitutional carry. Now, keep in mind, this is beyond national reciprocity. National constitutional carry is the ability to lawfully carry your handgun anywhere in the United States with no permission slip, ending the requirements in effect for permits, or at least having it so that there's national reciprocity that respects the majority of states that don't require any permit, so that with national constitutional carry, a person who is a resident of a constitutional carry state can carry, for example, in New York or New Jersey and all these oppression states with no permit, because it will be national. And if you think about what the Second Amendment means, the right to keep and bear arms, bearing is carrying. And the Second Amendment means that very thing. And that's why it's constitutional.
You also have to remember, Dad, like, think back to Shaneen Allen. If this law comes into play, that would have avoided that entire BS that she went through for her only crime crossing the Franklin Bridge.
Without the piece of paper that Jersey recognizes. That's right. And think of how many completely law-abiding citizens are turned into criminals, have their life destroyed, forced into a criminal judicial system for exercising a constitutional right. They weren't committing any crimes. They weren't robbing, stealing, raping. No, nothing. Just, oh, you have a gun and we're not recognizing your right in this jurisdiction. That's why this has to go. That's why it's a civil right. And it's really great to see President Trump pushing it again.
If they were robbing, stealing, or raping, they would just be let off, no bail, no nothing.
Well,
Just
if
based
they're an illegal alien, of course, you know.
Yes, of course.
And not only that, they would not even cooperate with ICE to have them deported. But that's separate.
Yeah.
We're talking here about law-abiding Americans with rights that are getting oppressed. And what's really interesting is that President Trump is pushing it now, making it an issue, not just leaving it in the shadows, making it a specific issue out there. And at the same time, he's pushing for the SAVE Act, right? So we have integrity in our voting system. And he's pushing like never before to get rid of the filibuster. The filibuster is what is stopping the Republican-controlled Congress from being able to pass the agenda that we voted for. Because the filibuster, as it stands now, you need 60 votes, and that's like that lets the oppressors still have power to stop these laws from going through. And you know that if the Democrats were ever gain power again, the first thing they're going to do is get rid of the filibuster. So cut it out. I didn't see the filibuster in our Constitution. It talks about majority for passing legislation in each house. Okay, that's what it is. So this filibuster thing is a contrivance. It needs to go, and it is time, because we can get these laws through and we can get the changes that we need on so many fronts, including the Second Amendment rights. Very important, critical.
Yeah, and this also comes from, this is right from the article from MSN, where he was, when he was unveiling at Andrews Air Force Base, the new aircraft, one of the attendees asked about it, and he said, "Yeah, we're working on it." Like, that sends it right there, because that puts it in, not only you just said not to the national spot, but also it had all the gun rights oppressionists jumping up, screaming, "No, no, no, no," like going, like just immediately. It's
Right.
so funny as you cut
It's
to like
Mike Lee's bill.
Giffords.
Mike Lee.
Yeah.
Mike Lee has the bill, and they are working on it. And this is a major, major law, probably the single most important pro Second Amendment rights law that we could pass in modern times, because it will, first of all, have a wonderful effect on reducing crime. We're facing these criminals that were let loose into our country through 4 years of Biden and these policies, plus the blue state policies of the revolving door with no cash bails and all that. So we need to be able to defend ourselves, but it also will make it so that carry is every individual who chooses to have a firearm to protect themselves, and this will make it much simpler for individuals to do that very thing, has a vested interest in preserving and fighting for their Second Amendment rights. It will be the biggest game changer that we could look for, because as we evolve in our Second Amendments, where the base used to be, the strongest base of our gun rights was hunters, it really has shifted where there's less hunting and less hunting lands, unfortunately, and it's shifted to a major uptick, tremendous uptick, in firearms for self-defense and personal protection and individual carry. And this will solidify it to the ultimate lifestyle of constitutional carry for all. That's what we want to see, and we will have a safer society. We'll have a safer country. Individuals will be able to protect their families, themselves, their loved ones. It is absolutely the best thing we could do for public safety and the protection of our sacred constitutional rights.
I will say as well, I pulled this from Giffords, for Gabby Giffords, of course, who is one of the, I would say would you say Giffords is probably the smallest out of the gun rights oppressors? There's still a factor, but compared to like every town
the Trace and Bloom Turd and his organization probably has the most influence, but then it's
they fund each
money
other.
Being poured in, and they do fund
them too.
But but the whole thing that also is true is that the anti-Second Amendment rights groups themselves are not really made of that many members. They don't have anywhere near the passion and the numbers of which there are gun owners in America and guns in America. And so they like to gloss over that little fact. They're basically small, but well heeled, well financed, right? And slick and propagandized and have an agenda of billionaires that they try to jam down the overwhelming majority of Americans' throats that actually support the Constitution and particularly the Second Amendment. So that's really, I mean, you don't see it in terms of numbers. Now they'll hold rallies or whatever. They'll pay people to turn out. They'll link in with other groups that are left wing and such to make their numbers appear big. But there's a tremendous difference between the pro Second Amendment rights forces and people and the anti Second Amendment rights forces and people.
And it's also, they never change the argument, because right here, right out of her own quote, concealed carry reciprocity is dangerously reckless proposal and would jeopardize the lives of the children, families, and police. People should not have guns who have no training, who have never passed a background check, would be able to carry concealed weapons in every community, no questions asked.
Yeah, and that is absolute garbaggio because the majority of America already has constitutional carry. The majority of states, 70% of the land mass of the U.S., you can carry now with no permit, okay? So obviously it's flawed. Why? I mean, look, murder rates have gone down nationally. But in, of course, the blue cities where they have the failure to cooperate with the federal government, where crime is out of control, it's problematic there. But overall, guess what? The incredible decline in violent crime and murder rates corresponds brilliantly to civilian expansion of carry. That's what you don't hear. You don't, when they talk about how great we're doing overall in terms of stopping and fighting violent crime and how those statistics show that we've improved, it correlates, it follows expansion of ability to carry, either by shall issue permit and or constitutional carry. That's why a national carry will enshrine it and make it the law of the land, and we'll see even better statistics and less people being victims instead of defenders.
You always have to go to the fact, and they always say if it saved one life, about 2 million to 2.5 million in defensive uses of firearms have saved lives per year.
Right.
It just going off, you can even ignore the correlation causation factor, and you can just cite to the fact that 2 million lives are saved from defensive uses of firearm. Because they go for the save one life, we've got to protect the children, and yet it saves lives. Just flat out argument to that. But no, they always go to, you're going to be arming criminals and traffickers and lead to more gun deaths. Okay. All right. That's...
Here's the bottom line. It's real simple. You can sum it up real easy. Guns save lives. Do you need to write that down? I mean, guns save lives. Okay? And unfortunately, the cohorts of the oppressionists is the media, the mainstream, lamestream media that loves to push the agenda of the billionaire elitists that want our rights destroyed. And that's a fact. Guns save lives. And when you can, as an individual, protect yourself and your loved ones, anyone who's a gun owner knows that feeling of security and safety. When you're trained and know how to shoot and have your own firearm, you know you can do it. And that is what enshrines it to the person, what puts it right in their heart. They go, ah, yeah, I get it. I get it. Especially individuals who've actually had to use firearms, or they realize the famous saying of, I'd rather have a gun and not need it than need it and not have it. And those that have needed one and not have it and not had it, yeah, they paid a price. And those that have had it when they needed it have saved lives.
It makes me think back to, I don't know if you remember seeing this, Jamal Bowman is Mr. Pull the Fire Alarm because I can't open a door.
Right, yeah, that guy.
He
Yeah.
I remember him having a shouting match. It was like a couple years ago. It was with him and Massey, and he was arguing for more restrictive gun measures, calling Republicans cowards. And he was screaming and saying, "You want more guns? You're gonna lead to more death!" Like just screaming that it would cause more death, like screaming, "You're all cowards, you don't save children," like just screaming about it. They do not care about the statistics. They do not care about the facts and the logic behind it. They just see weapon bad, weapon is used by the oppressor.
Wait, you're telling me that Democrat issues are emotion based? I find that hard to believe, Teddy.
I know, right? Whoops. Sorry.
Yeah, please.
They banned Logic in '84.
Yes, they did. They did. Well, Teddy, let me talk about our good friends at We Shoot, our favorite range, where you and I shoot and get our training and got our certificates so that we can carry. We Shoot, which is a range in Lakewood, New Jersey, a great facility. They are running a America 250th anniversary sale. That's right. This is a pretty cool sale, actually, because they are offering 15% off all of their pre-loved firearms. You know what a pre-loved firearm is, right? 15% off for any of those, and 25% off their Heritage Collection. These are all these guns. There's tremendously great guns that they have for sales. The 15% off sale across the board, you got to check out what they have. They have an amazing selection, and that's of course on their pre-loved guns, and their Heritage Collection. Man, that's 25% off, and that is some sweet guns. Let me tell you, the Heritage Collection has, for example, I'll just tell you about a few. Fox Sterlingworth shotgun, Fox A shotgun, we're talking these beauties, right? Fox AEs and all these Richards, W. Richards, SXSs, they're the 10 gauge Richards, Fox CEs, Parker Brothers Trojan, the Fevers, the Nitros. We're talking all the LC Smiths, Parkers, the classics of the scattergun world, man. The best of the best. And those are 25% off. So you want to go to We Shoot, get your training there. It's a great facility, great indoor range, conveniently located right off the Parkway, right in Lakewood, New Jersey, Central Jersey. Our ranges are critical. They're a resource. I mean, what good is it if you can't shoot, if you don't have any place to shoot? And we're lucky. We have a great place to shoot. It's called We Shoot. You can check out WeShootUSA.com. They have a brilliant website, fantastic photography. They treat their customers so well. Teddy and I love We Shoot. I know you will too. Check out WeShootUSA.com. And let me also shamelessly promote my book, New Jersey Gun Law. It's the Bible of New Jersey gun law. It's over 500 pages. It's over 120 topics, all question and answer, making it easy so that you don't become the next GoFu. Jersey's laws are complicated and it can be very perilous. As a matter of fact, the case law even says when dealing with New Jersey gun laws, you act at your own peril. Even the courts recognize that the gun laws are perilous. So to help defeat the peril and manage it, get a copy of my book, New Jersey Gun Law. Go to evannappen.com, evannappen.com, and get your copy today. You'll be glad you did. Hey, Teddy, what else have you discovered in your travels?
So, every time you turn on a TV show or movie like out of modern Hollywood, you've probably seen some anti-gun messaging. It's always there, some late little
Yeah,
bit.
some
there.
subliminal, some obvious. Yeah,
a
some
individual
just nonsense.
who was carrying, who ends up making the situation worse, or kid finds the gun in the house and then shoots himself, and these are
others or whatever. It's always
others, yeah.
right. Mishandling.
You always see that. So apparently this stems from Brady United. You know, Brady's still a thing, apparently. They decided to meet with, this is right from the website, 2,000 screenwriters, producers, studio executives, and talking about responsibility of depicting firearms in film and television. We are partnering with major partners like Paramount, Walt Disney Studios, CBS Studios. To the date, of estimated 150 viewers have watched Project Brady, has influenced things like from HBO's Euphoria, it's not even cracking anywhere for people caring about that show, to Netflix Little House on the Prairie reboot. Again, something no one else also isn't really watching. Also, just bear in mind, I love how everyone's screaming about like Paramount's this like big in with conservatives and Trump. They've made some good shows, but they also produced the most woke Star Trek series known to man, where you had like a retarded AI who was also a he, she, it. Like it's that. So it's that level.
Almost
of, like,
covered all bases.
I know, right? And then like there was a gay.
I heard they
Klingon,
modeled
like, was,
a lot of it after Tim Walsh, right? Anyway.
Well, yeah. Well, good luck with that. But yeah, and so they outlined this our show gun safety principles. I think they've ripped this off of our range principle, but okay. Like, to help Hollywood model safer behaviors around guns. We're not just changing the story, we're saving lives. Ugh.
Well, you know, okay. I mean, what they're doing here is they love to call every gun rights oppression law is a gun safety law. So gun safety to them is just banning guns, banning gun rights, going after in every way they can us and our rights and our guns. And so they just put it under a banner of safety. So anytime I hear that they're promoting so-called gun safety, well, gun safety to them is not what gun safety is necessarily to us. Now, if it was honestly showing better gun safety in the media, I'm not against that. I'm all for safe gun handling. But I tell you what, I have an idea better than what the gun rights suppressionists are pushing, where they're trying to get the writers to write it into the stories. Here's something very simple that could be done, but they'll never do it. But here's what needs to be done. You know, at the beginning of many movies and shows, there are warnings. Warning contains sexual or smoking, they even warn about, you know, violence they warn about, they you know, all kinds of racial stereotypes. Right? They put all these warnings. Here's a warning I want to see on every show and movie before it's shown. Have it warn the following shows improper handling of firearms. Put it as a warning. Do you know how many times you would see that warning on every show? And what it would do, it would show America just how bad the entertainment world is, just how bad these shows are for what they show. Anytime a gun is used illegally or improperly, that show should have that warning. Firearms here are being shown used illegally and improperly. However you want to word the warning. But every time that warning would come up, it would send the message, look who is showing wrongdoing. It's the media. So it would go hand in hand with arguably what the Trace and these guys, Brady and all, are trying to do, right? It would go hand in hand with it. They want to promote safety. We'll put warnings when the unsafety is being shown. I'd love to see that. And look, I don't want to restrict anybody's First Amendment. It's just a warning about what's coming up. I'm not looking to have any kind of censorship on it. They can show unsafe gun handling all day long, but just put a warning up front that that's what's coming. If you can warn about smoking, warn about offensive language, if you can warn about all this other, why not warn about that?
I remember there was I think it was either Bloomberg, Everytown, who put out after there was a big shooting, and they got a lot of Hollywood actors who were just naming off mass shootings, and someone did a supercut showing them misusing firearms in movies, and just to show the hypocrisy. So it's very hilarious. This is just them also running cover because of the violence depicted in movies, because they have that, not talking about they don't talk about that, they want to talk about the gun. But here's the 3 principles, just as a reminder. Model responsible gun ownership, especially secure storage. Show the consequences of reckless gun use. What's reckless? Oh, defending yourself with a firearm. Have at least one conversation during pre-production on the ways guns will be portrayed on screen. And this is most important of all, limit scenes with children and guns. That right there is important, because
they want to make the younger generation not have any familiarity or love of firearms whatsoever. Even it's not teach how to shoot safely and properly and enjoy shooting sports and mature to be able to have the ability to defend yourself and your family. No. Shut them out of it. Shut them out of it. Get them out of it. We don't want to have the young being gun owners in the future. And this is how we kill it.
Yeah. And then they highlight their successes, which they bring up. I love this one. They bring up Tulsa King. There's a scene where the character is teaching his girl how to shoot, and he's just going through like the very first rule of gun safety. Safety always. It's especially important. If you always assume the gun is loaded, never point anything you're not intending to shoot. I like how they take credit for just basic range safety. Like that's like, hey, we did that.
I like, some of back when America was America, had great movies like Shane. I mean, one of the greatest scenes in Shane with Alan Ladd and a young boy who's enthralled with him and his firearm and like any young boy should be. And remember, the mom is like, I don't want my son having guns and dealing with guns. And what does he say? Marion, a gun is just a tool. And there you go. One of the, awesome, just pro Second Amendment rights statement, making it clear, a gun is just a tool, Marion. And it is. It's a tool for our safety. It's a tool for our liberty. It's a tool for our freedom. It's a tool for our security. And that's the kind of message we love to see.
For me, I like the the River of No Return. That
You
where,
would like that.
Yeah, where the guy is his son who wants to learn how to shoot. He learns, and
Right,
he
teaches
saves his
him.
dad through back shooting after he gets.
Hey, there you go, man. He saved his dad.
Yep.
Hey, look. Didn't John
Was it
Wayne and Liberty
was that-
Valance kind of do that anyway, right?
yeah, I know,
I know in the
exactly.
shootist he didn't want to shoot anybody in the back, but I kind of
Yeah.
thought that happened in Liberty Valance. Maybe it was not crystal
was.
clear, but he
Well, he
definitely
wanted to save
ambushed
Jimmy
him
Fallon.
to save
Not
Jimmy
Fallon,
Stewart, right?
Yeah, Jimmy Stewart.
He saved Jimmy Stewart's ass with that shot. So yeah, no, but look, what's wrong with saving lives and the good guys winning? I mean, that's nice, beating the bad guys, not being a victim. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as you're
and kinda go-
justified and legal, and there you go. That
Yeah,
works.
And then this is something I wanted to highlight though for people to remember. They got all these show writers, so they had, for instance, like all sign this ridiculous letter. It was J.J. Abrams, the guy that ruined Star Trek. You have all these actors and producers and directors signing this Brady show gun safety letter, this open letter. Guns are prominently featured in TV and movies in every corner, but only America has gun violence epidemic. Okay, cut to the rest of the world. First, already debunked. Responsibility lies with lax gun laws supported by those politicians who are more afraid of losing power than saving lives. There we go, another one right there. Lax
more
laws, thinking they'll
nonsense and
save lives.
garbage.
We didn't cause the problem, but we want to help fix it. America's storytellers, our goal is to primarily entertain. That's not true in Hollywood. But we also acknowledge
Right.
story have power to
They're a
affect
propaganda
change.
factory is what they are.
Correct. Cultural attitude towards smoking, drunk driving, seatbelts, marriage equality have all evolved due to the movies and TV show influences. I'm pretty sure people are still drinking and driving. I'm pretty sure people are smoking, but now they're vaping. So that's a whole. And now because of that, they have to turn it towards vaping. And seatbelts, okay, and marriage equality, okay. Now the point now where they've lost
Putting
so
the
much
whole
power over
political
that.
agenda through their propaganda efforts through entertainment. Hey, Teddy, I want to tell you about a very important GoFu this week. This week's GoFu, remember, GoFus are gun owner F-ups. These are actual cases, real deal things that you need to know. These are expensive lessons that somebody else has paid for that you get to learn for free. And this week's GoFu, really something that you might not have considered before, but you really should. If you ride motorcycles, particularly motorcycles and such, make sure that the holster that you use is not a clip-on style holster. Make sure it's actual belt looped so that your holster doesn't come off while you're riding your motorcycle. Because particularly susceptible. Now, granted, this can happen in a car too, but in a car, the firearm is going to end up on your floor of your car, right? But on a motorcycle, if that holster comes off the belt because it's a clip-on, even with the gun in it, or for that matter, if the gun falls out of the holster, so you want to make sure your holster securely holds the firearm. But you have to make sure the holster is secured to your belt. And in motorcycling, the vibration, the noise, etc., it's very easy for an individual not to notice that falling off one's body. If you're riding your bike and all that's going on with the vibration and the road bumping and all these things you're dealing with, and it's very easy to have that type of clip-on holster come off And then what happens? The gun and the holster falls off somewhere on your ride. You don't even realize it. Once you realize that you've lost it, now in New Jersey, you have 36 hours to report it lost or stolen. That now jeopardizes potentially you being able to maintain your gun licenses. Somebody else gets a hold of that gun, there can be further issues. So please make sure that your holster itself is on your belt in a way that it cannot be removed unless you intentionally take it off through the loops. Very important. You don't want to become a gopher. This is Evan Nappen and Teddy Nappen reminding you that gun laws don't protect honest citizens from criminals. They protect criminals from honest citizens.
Gun Lawyer is a Counterthink media production. The music used in this broadcast was managed by Cosmo Music, New York, New York. Reach us by emailing evan@gun.lawyer. The information and opinions in this broadcast do not constitute legal advice. Consult a licensed attorney in your state.